Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast with your host, Tracy Hayes. Today we are expanding our reach way up to Fernandina Beach today with a top producer with an exceptional story. After finding herself unemployed paralegal, she decided to dive into real estate, and it's made all the difference. And she's already starting to expand her team in just a short period of 3 years. She hails from Portsmouth, Virginia. She connects with her customers on a personal level while demonstrating great empathy and patience. She offers a professional but personal experience in a real estate agent with an unwavering passion in walking people towards home ownership. With vast expertise and local market knowledge of the Florida market, let's welcome the high life of Century 21 Miller Elite, Missy Balestra, to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. And her new buyer's agent, Jadiz Marshall, as well. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
I apologize for not having that all in there, but hopefully you did well on that introduction. So, ladies, I welcome both of you to the show. I am honored to have you on, and really want to dig in today, Missy, in your explosion really with your production. I mean, in just a short period of time, where you're going and where you're headed, and obviously bringing Jadiz on, and you're looking to grow your team as well. So we want to hear about that as well. And Jadiz, I want to hear, if hopefully you can brag a little bit about Missy. What is the great thing about working with her team, and what you just noticed here in the first few months, and where you're headed, and your excitement in it. So let's start, as I always start off the show. Missy, where are you from?
Portsmouth, Virginia.
Yes.
Yep. Small town in between Norfolk and Virginia Beach.
So you grew up there, graduated high school?
I did. I went to Churchland High School, graduated in 1998, born and raised there. We moved here 6 years ago.
I have to look at this here. Is this a standard issue Century 21 name tag?
No, of
With
course.
With all these diamonds around there?
I've got to have the bling. I have to have the bling. I have a pink one, a white one, and a black one, and they all have bling.
I obviously go on social media and try to do as much background, because we really did. I mean, we, other than our some text messages and some brief phone calls, this is the first day we've ever met. So I'm going on your LinkedIn. So you go to high school in Portsmouth. I mean, do you go on to college? What are you aspiring to do at 20 years old? What do you?
So I got my paralegal certification. Mm-hmm. So I went straight to working for an attorney. Worked for a predominant one in Portsmouth, Virginia. Decided after 11 years, I just needed to stay home. My husband was traveling a lot. So I opened my own paralegal business virtually. Everyone said that was going to be a bust. It actually turned out to be very well. It was way before COVID even happened. Mm-hmm. I worked for attorneys up and down the East Coast from New Jersey down to Florida. Did it all virtually.
And you say that today, everyone would be like, yeah, no, that's a common thing.
Well, my daughter actually took over one of my attorneys who I used to work for.
Awesome. She
works for them now. She works remotely. She loves it. I liked it, but I needed to get out and meet people. Being so new to Florida, I needed to meet people, and that's why I got into real estate.
Well, my first 12 years in this business was in the call center. And after a while, there's a burnout there. When you're, you get up and you can wear your PJs to work, and you go 30 feet from your bed to your office. After a while, that actually does.
It burns you out.
Yeah, especially if you're someone who wants to interact.
Yeah.
And see other people and gain their energy. So the paralegal thing was something you envisioned fairly early.
Oh, I did. Yeah.
And you
right out of high school.
Okay. All right, Jace, we're going to jump over to you. Tell us a little about you. You were in property management before joining Missy here only just a few months ago. Tell us about where did you grow up, and what led you into property management?
So I'm actually from Fernandina Beach. I graduated from Fernandina Beach High School. Mm-hmm. So I grew up between there and Atlanta. I spent about 10 years in Atlanta. From kindergarten to about third grade, I lived in Fernandina, moved to Atlanta. Then I moved back to Fernandina my senior year. I went off to college in Tallahassee, so I attended TCC and FAMU.
Okay.
From there is when I started in property management. So, it's a college town. You got Florida State, FAMU, TCC.
Is that what you saw as a career? As other family members or friends doing that, or you just kind of fell into that?
So I had some friends that started in student housing. So, as a broke college student without a job. So I was like, that may be fun. So I started that way, and I started as a marketing coordinator for a student housing apartment complex. And it just kind of progressed from there. So I moved from student housing to multifamily. I've done commercial, single family, up until May of this year when I converted to sales. And Missy and I worked very well together when I was doing the property management for Century 21. She bought me a lot of good investors.
Yeah. So were you you were just primarily management, where you weren't doing any sales at that time, just handling people's properties?
Correct.
Missy had clients that needed management.
Yes.
Assistance and so forth. Okay. Imagine, obviously, Fernandina, as St. Augustine has the same thing as Jack's Beach, Airbnb became probably a big part of your business as time moved on in the last few years?
Not a part of what I was doing as far as property management goes. We were more so dealing with long-term rentals, so 6 months up to a year at a time. Right now, we do have short-term rentals. Not Airbnb necessarily, but yes, that it definitely is taking off, and it would not be a bad idea.
I know a lot of people are they see the Airbnb and they're like, oh, everyone's making money, but yet, and I think you would agree with me, you have to realize Airbnb is short-term rental. You can make a lot of money, but if you don't have the processes in place to your cleaning staff, or if you're doing it yourself, that can get old very quickly.
Oh, yeah.
Someone's just there for the weekend. Now, doing someone for 3 or 4 months, that can be very profitable. But the weekend stuff, that can burn you out real quick.
Yeah,
unless you have a good management company, or willing to pay a management company, which is obviously then getting a cleaning staff in there and taking care of all that for you. But it can be a logistical nightmare. Not as easy as everyone thinks. And then is Fernandina seeing like downtown St. Augustine, where the local governments are starting to say, hey, we need to put some restrictions on this. It's getting a little out of control.
Yes, very much so. And also the associations themselves, especially down like Amelia Island Plantation, a lot of those high-rise condos, they're known for vacation rentals. So they are kind of trying to place those restrictions on some of those condominiums so that they, can't rent them out daily or weekly. And they are trying to convert over to more of a long-term rental.
All right. So both of you kind of dove into your careers or previous careers, if we want to say before real estate or retail real estate, we want to say that way, pretty early. I mean, you were, you went right into paralegal. That's the word I want. Thank you. and you went right into the property management. So Missy, go back to you. Tell us about, because you do actually say in your social media, I guess one of the lawyers you were working with, decided to retire, or whatever happened, and what led you to go get a real estate license.
So he did. It was January 15th, 3 years ago. Called me up. I was getting gas. I remember it like it was yesterday, because we had a rental property in Virginia that I was driving up to because we had just evicted the tenants. Said, I'm done. I'm like, what? He was like, I'm done. I was like, what do you mean you're done? He was like, I'm leaving New Jersey. I'm coming down to Florida. I'm not going to practice anymore. And I was 6 figures a year. Of course, I was having a meltdown. Called my husband, and he's super supportive. He said, stop. You're done. Go do something different. Of course, I didn't know what I was going to do different, but I was told you'd be a great realtor. I'm like, well, let's give it a shot. What's the worst thing I do? Fail? So
I love it.
That's the absolute worst thing that happens, is that you try and you don't succeed.
Or you find out you just don't like it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was super nervous the first 6 months. My first sale wasn't until my 6th month into real estate. The guy who I actually bought my truck from owns a dealership in Georgia.
Okay.
He actually bought a condo from me. He was my very first sale. First off my website, and from there I've been very successful with everything, advertising. You have to spend money to make money, but you got to learn when not to spend too much money.
All right, let's not. I want to dig in a little bit, because I said pre-show, one of the things I always want, or I think some of the listeners, is an agent trying to, wanting to improve by listening to what other people are doing and stealing some of their, little tips and tricks and so forth. But it's not uncommon to go your first 6 months without having a sale, especially, if you're not being given leads or anything like that. So I want to touch into two things here. Jadiz, I'm going to follow up with you on why you chose Missy, because hopefully why Missy chose where she went led you. So you've been with Century 21 the whole time. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So what led you to the first brokerage? And the reason why I always ask this question is because what I have found in 90 some agents that I've interviewed, there's some brokerages for some and there's some brokerages for others. Some brokerages want experienced people. Some people are really good with green, and some kind of do all the above. What was it that led you to the Century 21 Miller Elite?
So it used to be Century 21, John T. Ferreira. They are known for having years of experience in Fernandina Beach. Being a paralegal by trade, working with older people, that says something. Older people, and not just older, just people of habit, will go to Berkshire Hathaway and Century 21. Those seemed to be the two big brands. I interviewed with both of them, also several others. I chose Bobby's office because Bobby used to be our broker before Gina took over, because of his history. History means something.
There is no doubt. If looking back in history, and I think I've mentioned this one time before, I mean, Century 21, you knew that because of the yellow jackets, right?
Right.
Yeah, they're mustard colored jackets, not really yellow.
Well, yeah, now they've got them gold. Now they've got them super gold, and they're cute.
Okay.
Very cute.
They look like the NFL Hall of Fame jackets. But yeah, I mean, that was a symbol. That was their branding for as far back as I can remember.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I can't think of another one other than Remax on national television. Remax, is it Remax that has the hot air balloon?
Yes.
Yeah. That I can remember looking back when I was growing up in the 80s and into the 90s, Century 21 was the name. So I met it. Yeah, okay. Having that reputation or having that endorsement behind you. How important, though, was it, you're going from paralegal to real estate. You don't know anything, the idiosyncrasies of the industry yet, and finding someone to mentor you or that would take you under their wing. I mean, what'd they do to make you feel that was going to happen, or were you even looking for that at the time, and then found out later, I need to find someone to do this for me?
So I'm very independent.
Yeah.
No one took me under their wing. Yes, my broker Bobby and Gina have mentored me, but I do my own thing. I started my own website as soon as I got into the business. Knew that this was an individual career. No matter what broker you're with,
right?
We're all competitors. We all work to get leads. While we can be a team together, you're still an individual company. You work for yourself. You work for the broker. You're 1099. Know your self-worth and what you want to do to stand out. And that's what I did. Because I did that with paralegal. I was the only virtual paralegal at that time. Started my own website and was able to grow that. So I already knew how to do the business.
So you're a trailblazer.
Pretty much.
So let's dig into those first 6 months. I mean, what are some of your challenges? I mean, because I imagine you not knowing the business, and it did take you 6 months to get the first sale, and after you started to click. What were some of the things that you did that you look back now and go, I'm gonna help Jadiz not have that 6 month dry, if you want to call it a dry spot or learning curve. What are some of the things you did that like to keep her away from or lead her to?
Door knocking. I can't tell you how many times I had the door slammed in my face. Fernandina Beach and a lot of Florida, we have HOAs. You're not allowed to door knock. I was blasted on social media my first month. Soliciting. I'm like, I didn't mean to. So nobody told me you couldn't do it in certain areas. Right. So that was embarrassing. So that put me in a funk. So that's one thing. So we're learning where we want to door knock, where we don't want to door knock. I really didn't have experience in cold calling. I'll be honest. Jadiz, on the other hand, she seems to be very good at it. The leads that I have her working, 2 of them this week, she's been able to connect with. It may be because I have a 757 zip code. I don't know. But she seems to have better niche at that. It's finding your niche. My niche, honestly, is emailing. Everybody responds to my emails. When I send an email, thank you so much for reaching out to me. Wanted to give you an update on here's the local marketing report. Let me know when you'd like to schedule a showing or schedule a call. Thank you so much for reaching out. I normally get a response within 30 minutes.
I like that. Even just your brief scenario, description of that. You have a call to action.
Yes.
You have something in the subject line that gets them to open it.
Correct.
Which is, hey, do you know the value of your home or the market, right? The terminology there that gets people to go, oh, yeah, everyone always wants to know what their home is worth, whether they have any intention of selling or not.
Right.
But then you have a call to action there. So that's something on October 21st. That's one of the things we're going to talk about is social media and a call to action. All right, Jace, we're going to jump over to you. And you just heard what she went through and some of the trials and errors. And of course, she's a trailblazer now that you're following here. I don't know if you quite have the fire in your hair like she does, but you are that new person. You are her 3 years ago. So what are some of the things that, that you're benefiting from her experiences? And obviously she's had a lot of at-bats, has done a bit of production in 36 months roughly, that you're pulling from her and from the learning curve.
So one thing I love about Missy, and I know everyone says, I go above and beyond. It's like a thing everyone says, but she really does.
Yeah.
Sometimes people in her office even look at her like she's doing the most. So, but she does it for the benefit of her customer. And I find that most of her customers, they become friends. Like, I'll call her and say, hey, what are you doing? Oh, I just went to dinner with so-and-so. Like, you closed with them 2 years ago, Right. So
right.
I feel like she's not money-driven. She's relationship-driven. And I feel like when you're relationship-driven.
Have you listened to any of my episodes before?
Am I repeating?
No, go ahead. I'll tell you in a minute.
And I feel like when you're relationship-driven, the money will come. When you have people's best interests at heart, and I think she truly does, that's one reason why I chose to work with her. I feel like that sets her aside from a lot of realtors in our area. I do actually think that she's a trailblazer.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. In 10 minutes that I've known you guys, I already can see that.
She does her own thing. She's not a rule breaker.
Well, what do you guys? Because you spend a lot of time growing up in that area. You've been working in the Fernandina area for a while, so you know some people. And then obviously your previous career in property management, I mean, you interacted with a lot of people. Not every customer came from Missy. They, other realtors or just, through the company, you've got to know some of these investment property owners and so forth over time. What are you guys doing? What is Missy directing you on in working that warm circle, stirring up the people you already know and know you?
Well, what we like to do, we like to, just touch base with them, even if they're not if they're not in the market at the moment, just make sure we touch base with them throughout the year. Like, we have a Christmas party that we're planning. Hopefully we can get that going for the holiday, a holiday party. And she just stresses the importance of making sure they remember who you are, even if it's not like a postcard or a gift, even if it's a quick text message. Hey, how you guys doing? What's been going on? Just continuing to get in front of them, no matter what format it's in.
Now, she said you like cold calling. Are you going back into this, pseudo past client database, or your friends? Are you reaching out to them periodically that are not in your daily life, but that are out there on the outer circle of your influence, and just calling them and saying, hey?
Yes.
Yeah.
Randomly.
Yeah. Tell us how if someone's listening right now, how does that conversation go? What I mean, obviously you go into it with something that you're going to say, and then it'll take its own life after you say hi. But I think a lot of people have call reluctancy and just getting to the point of saying, hey, how you doing?
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty simple. I call them up, and depending on, what their situation was, let's say they had a baby, or, they just got a new job, and I'll call them, hey, how's the baby? How's the family? How's your new job?
Are you a Facebook troller?
I am a Facebook troller.
Yeah.
She's so much better at that than me. So much better.
So I already know what's going on in your life before I even ask you. So
I mean, social media has really opened that up. And if people are willing to post the pictures, they want people to know.
Right.
I hope they understand that there are people actually seeing it on the other end. It's kind of like that thing. I remember growing up in psychology class, Psychology 101, and professor talking about there are people in this world who think they're the only thing that actually exists and everybody else is just this thing around them. No, there are actually people out there watching what you're doing.
Yeah.
And if you're posting, they're seeing. And you probably already do it because it's one of the things I hear on the podcast, and we go to these different seminars and so forth, to actually make comments. Someone has a baby, say something of substance on there, especially if you're trying to influence. The algorithms are picking up those statements, and therefore they're going to see more of your stuff.
Right.
Because you're
Correct.
actually interacting in the social media portion. All right, let's. So the property management, let's make that transition if you could for us, Jadiz, from the property management. You just got to a point where it's like, you know what, I can go further in getting into retail real estate. What was your decision there that made you jump?
I always wanted to go into sales. I actually got my license 2.5 years ago with the intention on going into sales. Life kind of happened, and I kind of got a little weary. I'm like, I kind of really want that definite check. So I went back into property management. But being in the atmosphere of all of these amazing realtors and just soaking that all up, I'm like, you know what? I could do this. I could definitely do this. So I took the leap of faith. I actually really lucked out and got my first deal within the same month. A $725,000 house,
nice,
about a block away from Fernandina Beach. So I was really lucked up on that.
Start up, yeah. I mean,
so that kind of got me going.
Now you're hooked, right?
Yeah, so that kind of got me going in the right direction. And then Missy and I had the conversation about teaming up, and she's been doing astronomical numbers. So I'm like, I want to be on a winning team for sure.
Yeah, we're definitely going to dive into the team structure, because one of the things, the common theme that I hear from a lot of the top people is like when to make the first hire as like a transaction coordinator, when to team up and get in this case, a buyer's agent, because the volume's coming in, and you could just swamp yourself to the point where I think Shonda Caponero said, I mean, she got to the point where she was giving away leads to people, and finally said, hey, I need to just have my own team and at least get something there, a little more than just the referral part of it. So making that first hire. But Missy, you've come such a, I think a lot of real estate agents would love to duplicate what your 36 months production wise and so forth. But what did you do from an educational standpoint? What do you do personally? Maybe you were already doing it in the paralegal field, having to deal with, attorneys and, that level of communication and just you're building on yourself, personal development. What are you a book reader? Do you listen to podcasts? Do you like attending events? What do you do to keep your sword sharp?
So we do go to events. Jadiz and I went to one this year together with Century 21. I hang out with the family. I'll get my beach days in at least twice a year. At least twice.
Oh, they like to do in the beach resort? Is that where Century?
Well, actually, we're members of the Ritz-Carlton.
Oh, okay.
So we have the private membership, so we'll go there at least twice a year. I'm a workaholic. My husband and my kids will tell you all the time. My laptop's always in front of me. I'm trying to work on not doing that so much.
Right.
That was the purpose of hiring Jadiz, was to give more family time.
Or teaming up with Jadiz.
Well, yeah, it's teaming up.
Is she on a salary?
No, she's not on a salary. But yeah, I mean, so getting Jadiz on board and having her help me has been able to allow me to, do dinner at a good time, like 7:30. Sit down with the husband, sit down with the son, interact with our daughter, things like that. So I think that family balance is something I was missing, and that's why I transitioned to a team.
Oh, there's no doubt. Still go through it. I have to at times, like last night, I stayed a little bit later. I'm finishing everything here at the office because I'm not going to open it when I get home. And it's one thing I think in our industry, because we do live what we do, and we want to be responsive at certain times. But you reach a certain level. It's like, hold on a second. I'm doing this so I could have free time. But we do get we get a high off of helping people. I mean, that's
absolutely,
to solve a problem. We're problem solvers. Matching people with the right house is like introducing a friend to another friend, and they end up getting married. Like there's a little high in that you
absolutely.
had some part of that. And so we just want to go. But really, the reality is at some point you gotta say, hold on a second. I gotta all right, not gonna open that laptop. I'm gonna leave my phone in the bedroom or whatever, and I'm gonna go sit in the living room and watch a movie with the family or whatever. There is that separation piece. We're going to go, let's get into the business and the things that you've been doing from the get-go, or some of the things you've learned. So at Century 21, they provide some level of training.
Correct.
The different events, they bring in speakers and so forth. Where have you found in your brief, really short career so far to be, kind of your honey spot for education?
Tom Ferry.
Tom Ferry is your go-to guy.
Tom Ferry's my go-to guy. From the very beginning, I am that person. I kind of stalked online. Who's the best? What's the best thing to do? I've gotten his books. I read a lot of what he puts on social media. I've attended a lot of his social media and stuff. Our office does do great training, but again, I'm independent. Mm-hmm. So a lot of things I do are on my own.
Are you actually in his coaching program, or you just like to follow him and all his social media?
I was in his coaching program the first year. Mm-hmm. And then now I'm not so much because I feel like I've gotten that knowledge and gotten to that point. Because it is rather expensive.
Yes.
You pay that money.
Yes.
Now I just kind of follow and see things.
So you brought up coaching is another common thing. Not every top agent has done it, but many have. And you mentioned your first year. So I imagine in your eyes and my perception would be you did it to shorten your learning curve.
Correct.
So tell us a little bit of some of the things that were, Tom, I assume you weren't getting coached by Tom himself.
No, I was not.
But one of his people.
I wish, but no.
What were some of the things, some of the tips or some of the just things that maybe you were doing they helped you get away from so you could shorten that learning curve? Give us some of the coaching benefits.
The follow-up. I created a drip campaign for buyers, a drip campaign for sellers. All of that comes automatically from my website. Having my own personal website. It's not a Century 21 website. It's one I pay for. Got that early on. Got all of that set up. Every single one of my leads. And Jadis and I looked yesterday. I think it's 1,056, Jadis? Something like that?
1,100.
Oh, 1,100. So all of those leads, even from past, are being touched.
Whether you converted them or not.
Correct.
Anyone you have touched is in that database.
That is correct.
Mm-hmm. And constantly reaching, or like you said, you do very well with your creative emails to get people
correct.
to open those emails. So Tom, get your own website, MissyBalestra.com.
Yep.
Right away. It's interesting because Tanya Cosmini, I had on my previous episode late last week, said the exact same thing about going out and getting your own URL. Whoever, and you should do so if you haven't already yourself, Jadis. Get the jadismarshall.com URL right away, assuming it's still available or some version of it. Because even if you're not using it, it's just a couple of dollars to reserve it, and reserve it for 10 years. I mean, you might, a lot of people, not even $100, you're reserving it for 10 years. It's your URL. And obviously you have first right to renew it and so forth.
Correct.
But it's interesting just in two conversations and you mentioning the same thing there. At what point, Missy, do you get to the point, because did you hire a transaction coordinator first, or did you team up with Missy?
Transaction coordinator.
Okay. At what point did they help you get to that situation? Because that is a challenge with a lot of agents who all of a sudden the production goes and they're like, oh, well, what if it stops tomorrow? Then I hired this person. I mean, how did you make that leap to hire that first transaction?
Following up with your leads and being there for everyone like I am. Social media is my biggest downfall. I don't have time for it. I don't scroll on Facebook all the time. The transaction coordinator, she does all of our social media posting. We hired her. She'll get with me in the morning. This is what she does. We do have an in-house office transaction coordinator who sometimes I'll use her. We just got a new one, so she's doing a lot of those now so that Michelle can concentrate on social media. The one thing I want to consistently do is stay involved in Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of that. And that's where she comes in. She spends about 2 hours a day doing it.
How important is it today in real estate that whether it's the Century 21 office or your team as it grows to get big enough that you actually have a player who is playing on social media? I'm using the word playing, but doing the regular posts, doing all those things off the multiple social media platforms on a regular basis, whether they're spending a couple hours a day, creating or whatever that time is, but to have someone designated to be doing that consistently.
It's very important. The last seminar we went to, there was actually a speaker there, and she was kind of giving us pointers, stating something 3 posts a day. One of it being informational, one of it being personal, one of it maybe being about an open house or something about the market.
Right.
It's very important to do that 3 times a day, and don't always make it about real estate. Switch it up.
Do you feel that some people shy away from it because I think they're putting too much out there?
Some do.
Assuming they are making it. I think the other excuse is actually creating the content. You have to do it or think about it. I know for sure if I open my Facebook right now, I can guess 3 to 5 agents that are probably going to pop up right at the top of my feed because they are constantly doing something, whether they're in their office or they just got in their car, they sit there, they're headed to a showing, whatever, or doing just a selfie at lunch with someone they're having lunch with or something. They're constantly pouring it on all the time. But the reason I bring this up is obviously we have the event on the Breakfast with Content on the 21st where we're talking about this because people I don't think fully have grasped, and I don't know if they'll ever fully grasp. I mean, I think it's that thing like, only 1% of the agents really make all the money. It's that thing where they have to actually put themselves out there. I think number one is top of mind. Would you agree with your circle of influence?
Absolutely.
Too many people are worried about, and Jadiz, I'd love to get your comment on the social media part. Too many people are worried about what they're saying versus the fact that they are saying something.
Right.
Yeah. They're it could be just a reason to do a video. I give a mortgage tip, okay, or you might, or hey, every Sunday when I go boating with the family, I do my lifestyle video because I think we sell lifestyle in Florida. That's why people move here is they want to live the Florida lifestyle. So boating is my lifestyle. That's what we love to do on Sunday mornings. It doesn't matter, and I think the other thing is it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter if you stutter a couple of times. The people that are seeing it already, for the most part, already know you. They already love you already. They might laugh because you stumble or something, as we would in any conversation. And then I got Missy's names all over there. But the important part of the bottom line, important part of it is that they saw you and it reminded them of you, and then ultimately what you do.
Correct.
Would you agree?
I wholeheartedly agree. Even if it's something like a new donut company just opened up and you're recording yourself going to try it out, you know?
Right.
Just something that simple or...
Well, I mean, one of the tips that you get from these different events, actually, it was funny, I was listening to, I can't remember if it was a podcast or a YouTube video or something that a person I follow was interviewing. And I went on, his suggestion was, hey, you should do a podcast if you're in real estate of going around and talking to the local business owners. And I laughed because I'm talking to my local business owners right here beside me. You chose your own business. But as a real estate agent, and especially in a nice community like Fernandina or St. Augustine Beach or Jack's Beach, to go around and say a few words or stand in front of a restaurant and recommend it, and then obviously put them in the post so they see it, puts you in a highlight reel.
We're way ahead of you.
Yes. Well, no, I know I'm preaching to the choir here. Yeah.
That's why we were just smiling. That is one of the things that we are doing different this year is we are getting out into the community. Jadiz has done 2 interviews with 2 local business owners. We sit down, kind of like we're doing here, set up the camera, interview them, put them on the website. I have 2 that we're interviewing this upcoming week. I want to do at least 1 a week.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing. The big tennis match and pickleball tournament that we're doing, we're going to have a huge tent there. We're the #1 sponsors. So that's going to be November 5th and 6th on the Omni Plantation. Super excited about that. We've done shredded events. So yeah, we're a little bit ahead of you on that.
Well, I know I was preaching to the choir. I'm talking to the audience. I'm not trying to convince you. No, but I think a lot of, in going back to the social media part, is that you're entering their circle. That restaurant or that auto body shop or whatever it is that you're standing in front of and talking and hopefully giving you great service and you're endorsing them by being there, they have a circle of people too that may not know you. And that you now, when you mention them in that Facebook post, are now being entered into their circle. And hopefully they're friending you, and then that algorithm starts linking you up. That's what people don't understand, what's going on in the back. And all of a sudden, there's this whole other group of people that don't know you, as for instance, you sitting here, your circle, my circle. There might be people who don't know you. There's people in your circle, your past clients, other real estate friends and so forth that don't know me. And now I've entered your circle because we're on Facebook together and talking together. And now we're expanding our influence.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Your career is my question here. What has been, Missy, your high point as an agent so far? What if we look back and you said there's just one thing that, when you picture it in your mind, you're just like, man, that was a great sale or whatever, or you learned something at a certain event. What was like the greatest high, or that little shot of adrenaline that we get when we get excited about something in your 3-year career now?
So I worked with a buyer who was only $100,000. I worked with him from January 2nd until August the 8th. Every weekend, we went out to see the property.
Wow.
Every weekend. We went Saturday and Sunday. I'm in Amelia Island. We went all the way down to Middleburg. That is an hour away from me.
More than that.
Yeah. So seeing his face that day at closing, even though it was only $100,000, how happy he was. That was my biggest high out of everything, to be completely honest. First-time home buyer, in his 30s, down on his luck when I first met him, just got married. I was invited to the wedding, my husband and
Awesome.
I both. So seeing him progress into the great person he is today and marry such a sweet young lady, have his own house, have the land, have the dog, have the chickens, have all that, right? That was the high for me. I mean, and I'll never forget it. My husband's like, really, again? I'm like, honey, it's going to happen. Trust me. And it did.
Yeah.
And now they're friends too, so.
That is a precious story, because nothing drives me more nuts. I'll get calls from the lending side where people will say, hey, they are looking at this $100,000 condo, and no one's returning their call. And it's like, you don't know who that person knows. Just because he's only a $100,000 buyer doesn't mean his good friend is the $725,000 buyer, right? You just don't know. And I have seen in time, and I've said this numerous times on the podcast, you don't know who knows who. And of course, with social media now, he's probably posting how great you are. His friends you don't know who he knows. And just because he may not be, super, that might be just a choice. He just likes living that lifestyle. There are people who just want to go hunt and do whatever and work minimally. That, as long as they pay their bills and their taxes, all the power to them. But you don't know who they know. And that person who wants to buy the $725,000 home, who doesn't know a realtor, but his friend just said, hey, I had this great transaction. Missy took care of me. I mean, invited her to my wedding and so forth. That person may be calling you. I mean, you just don't know. And when I hear people say, oh, they're not calling me back, to me, it's just a humanity letdown right there. But that is just such an awesome story. Awesome story. All right. Jadiz, you've been short career now, a few months, but you've been in property management, you've been in real estate for a while. What gives you what is it you love about real estate?
Helping people, honestly. I mean, people come to you because they have a problem. They need a home or they need to sell their home. And just being that person that solves their problem gives me that high. Mm-hmm. I don't feel like I've reached my highlight just yet. But I have experienced different scenarios where people thought they couldn't get qualified for a home, especially with rental prices right now.
Yes.
And just going through that process with them to just find the best fit, even if it's not with me, even if it's reaching out to other brokerages or helping them find apartments they may be able to afford, just taking that extra step at no benefit to myself to make sure they get what they need.
Right. They look towards us as professionals. We are problem solvers. I think that bottom line, we're problem solvers, right? I mean, it's just we're in the real estate field, and I mean, I'm getting a lot of calls right now because the type of buyers that we're getting, I think, are people who kind of got comfortable in the renting area, weren't really pushing, but now all of a sudden rents are going through the roof, like you're saying, and now they're calling in. So, of course, they're asking about the different down payment assistance programs and so forth that are out there. Unfortunately, with rates so high, their buying power is down. But I think where we haven't seen it probably like 18 months is now all of a sudden this influx of the renters saying, hey, I've had enough. I mean, the rents are going through the roof. The demand's so high, I've got to go after it. And they are moving out. Missy, tell us a little, because Nassau County, I think, is... I live down here in St. John's. You're up there in Nassau. Nassau, I think, is just a few years behind St. John's as far as growth.
Correct.
And, what are the projections, especially going west of 95? Although there's still plenty of land east of 95, isn't there?
No.
I think shortening. East, it's getting more expensive.
East is a little bit higher price point. Mm-hmm. East of 95, we're pretty much built out. CETA is doing a new construction. Century Communities is doing a new construction. Those are our two new communities. The rest of it's going west.
Yes.
Tributary, Wildlight, all of that is going to put you on, like, I call it across the railroad tracks. Mm-hmm. Going to put you on that west side. It is growing towards Callahan and Hilliard, for sure, 100%. And it's still going to grow that way. That's where the land is.
Yes. The affordable land.
Correct.
Yeah, from that standpoint, because I mean the growth in, we've seen, everyone has seen growth in Northeast Florida in the last 18 months, but it wasn't that long ago where you could get what would be considered today a very reasonably priced home, very close to the beach in Fernandina.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it's because of St. Johns County, there's nothing more on the water that you get. As far as communities are going, you're going further south, and downtown St. Augustine, I like to compare it to two. I don't know if people actually do that. I do. I think they have a lot of similarities, Fernandina and St. Augustine.
That is correct.
As far as being that downtown, you can go hang out, walk to shops and restaurants and all that stuff is going on. And people are obviously enjoy that lifestyle.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If I have a buyer that comes up, and I had one in particular, she got to Amelia Island and cried. She hated it. She hated the log trucks. She just cried. They had put a contract on a condo. Mm-hmm. She was crying the entire time. I said, we're withdrawing the offer. And her husband said, what? I said, we're withdrawing the offer and we're going to St. Augustine right now. And we did. That day, we put another contract in on a condo, and they loved it. If you can't, they have to love where they live.
Sure,
if you
100%.
don't like Amelia Island, I'm not going to pay 25% referral fee. I'm going to get in my car. You're going to ride with me or you're going to follow me, right? And we're going to get that deal. We're going to find your place.
So in this particular situation, because I guarantee there's been the opposite too. I mean, obviously everyone has their own choices. What was it about St. Augustine over Amelia that they, in this case?
The water was bluer, her words, and there were no log trucks. She had a fear of log trucks.
A fear of log trucks. Interesting.
Final destination.
There, right? Yeah. She did. She had a huge fear of them.
Well, it just goes back to my original statement. It's just a few years, because in a few years that that won't be there, because that land's going to be cleared. There's going to be houses up there. But if you want to move to Florida right now and want in a close to the water or close to the river, intercoastal, you want that type of lifestyle. I think Nassau County is the buy.
Nassau County and St. John's. There is property in St. John's that is actually a little bit cheaper than Nassau County.
West of 95.
Yes, that is correct.
Definitely, yeah.
Yep.
I keep saying I don't understand when Hastings was absorbed by the county, when it no longer was its own township, I guess, why someone hasn't gone out there and turned that into the next villages, in my opinion.
Oh, just wait.
Yeah.
I think it will. I think it will. And I've been to Hastings. I mean, yeah, I think give it time.
You're on the river. I mean, definitely. Now, one of the challenges that they have in St. Johns County, because I am on the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, and it's not like it's top secret or anything, is the affordable housing. What is going on in Nassau County as far as that? As far as those people that are working in those restaurants, are they able to still be able to get out within a reasonable distance, or are they transporting them in? Because I think that's one thing St. John's is going to have to do, is they're going to have to run a bus out 207 to Hastings, where those people can afford to buy a home, but have the ability to transit into downtown for the restaurants and so forth. Is Nassau County starting to have that issue as well?
Yes. I know several business owners who they actually are buying multifamily homes to house their employees during the summer and providing them with transportation.
Brilliant. Yeah.
The Omni does that.
Yeah, the Omni is phenomenal. They do the same thing, and a lot of the local restaurants are, seeing that as well. It's more beneficial to put them in their own housing, provide them with transportation, and then number one, they know they're going to be at work, and they're grateful.
Right. No, I mean, when I did a brief stint, my parents had moved to Naples in the mid '90s, and my dad was driving for a transportation company, and they literally, the Marriott on Marco Island had a bus every morning, and my dad was driving. He'd drive out to Immokalee and load that bus up and drive them all the way into the Marriott on Marco Island, because they obviously couldn't afford to live on the island. And those who did live on the island, that were in that hospitality field and not making enough money to buy a home, they would be living 6 to 8 people in a 2-bedroom condo or more. It was crazy. Yeah, and I don't know but some people can live like that. But all the power to them. But obviously, they didn't have that hour ride in from Immokalee every day, as well. So I think both St. John's and Nassau are mirroring each other in their challenges and so forth, and hopefully learning from it and expanding them. All right, so let's. I want to kind of go in and take this last turn. Your production level got up. I don't think we really dug into that transaction coordinator. That you got to a point that you wanted to spend. You realized you weren't spending a lot of time with family. You needed to have that help. What were some of the things that you did you even have a reluctancy of jumping to do it? You just said, "Yeah, I'm getting really busy. I need to hire a transaction coordinator." No,
I was reluctant. I don't like to give up control. Mm-hmm. I like to keep my hands in everything, and that was really hard. And there still are times that I go in and I pull things from her because it's that control factor. Mm-hmm. If I need to make sure everything's being done, and the last thing I want is someone texting me saying, "Missy, where's my survey?" The last response I want to give is, "I don't know." Then I don't look professional. So I do make sure that I'm on top of it and go through and just touch every file daily.
So what was it that you thought you could do so much better?
More people skills and getting out. I started playing tennis because I used to play tennis. Mm-hmm. So I started getting out into the public eye more. So I met a guy when I was down in St. Augustine, who's actually a friend of the family. Long story. We end up knowing everybody from Portsmouth. He goes to pickleball. He goes to golf. I met him a year and a half ago, and he said, "Missy, the biggest thing you can do is get out in the public. Become part of the public."
Well, that was your reason to hire, so you could free yourself of that.
To get me out of the house more and to do more in the public.
But your reluctancy, like you said, you wanted to be a control. But what was it? Because I think everyone has that challenge, and that's why it's a big challenge for everyone to make that leap to get that first transaction coordinator or hire that virtual assistant, whatever it may be, because they think they can do it better. And like, what was it when you really sat down and thought about it? What was it that you were doing so much better that someone else couldn't, that you had to break that umbilical cord and say, okay, I got to let them do it?
Follow up. I literally had, I can count 3 leads I dropped the ball on because I was too busy diving deep into the files, making sure everything was done, where I could have been paying my attention on other leads that went somewhere else.
So so in this case, you saw you hindered yourself,
correct,
from advancement because you realized you were too deep into the quagmire,
correct,
of the administrative work. And I think that's the challenge. And Jadiz, you're definitely going to see, if you probably didn't even already see it in property management already, number one challenge, it's in the loan officer world as well as the real estate world, because we're a relationship building, as you mentioned earlier, we're relationship people. We actually have to spend time building relationships, and that could be a lot of different things, whether it's having coffee, lunch, just calling and saying hi. That actually is very, very important in our business. The contract or following up and making sure the survey was ordered. Yeah, do you want to touch base with your coordinator and say, hey, where are we at with this file? Is the appraisal been ordered? Okay, cool. In 30 seconds, you move on. They're spending the time making those calls to make sure those are all things are in motion. But we've got to spend our time doing the relationship building, because if we're not bringing in that business, or in this case, you felt you missed 3 leads, that, hopefully, would have, even if one converted, would have well paid for the transaction coordinator.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of people are in that hang up. It's definitely a talk in your industry. It's a talk. It's the difference in the loan officer world between the top producers and the guys just doing 2 or 3 loans a month, is they have that assistant as you have a transaction coordinator, or now you're building your team out so that you can actually be pouring, because you are the face. You are creating the contacts, you creating the relationships. Hopefully Jadiz creates those same relationships and she grows as big as well, and you have multiple transaction coordinators and multiple buyer's agent. But I think a lot of people miss that piece, that there is that, as much as it's not actually, I don't know if it's people miss because it's not like a physical work, like, hey, I filled out this document and I emailed it to somebody. Okay, you actually physically did something, versus you got on the phone and said, hey, how you doing?
Right.
Exactly.
Not realizing the hey, how you doing is actually more important than the...
Exactly.
Yeah, so we don't attribute that to work. We attribute that to, like, socializing, which is what we are doing, but that's what we do. Yeah,
right.
yeah. All right. Here's some common themes that I want. We'll go back and forth, and you guys, and Jadiz, you being young in the business, you still are either probably have touched some of this or have, or I know you're going to have some sort of comment. Top agents, education, right? You hired a coach, Tom Ferry. That was part of your education. What do you do today as far as do you try to schedule it, to add, whether it's weekly, monthly, you're going to the local board or coming down to NEFAR or whatever it may be, where you like to go, whether it's getting formal education, but how important is to learn something, whether it's how to something on the contract physically in real estate, or just how to be a better person. How important, and do you plan that out in your schedule, whether, like I said, whether daily, monthly, weekly?
So it's monthly.
Yeah.
So monthly, I'll try to go to at least something, whether it's another agent, because we know agents from different brokerages that do seminars, whether it's a loan officer, whoever it is, I try to go to one of it monthly to just get that education. We have to do CE credits. Again, I'm a big online person. I do that all online on my own. I don't go to any classroom setting. I don't need that. I just do that online, but in person once a month.
So for me, our office at Century 21 Miller Elite, we have normally something weekly. And if I can't make that, I do rely heavily on, it's a platform we use, C21 online. And they offer multiple training classes. You can log on, I would say probably 3-4 times a week. They have a class from a seasoned realtor on there. So I rely heavily on that. I have 2 little ones at home, so sometimes my schedule gets a little crazy. So I do love that benefit, and like I said, the weekly office meetings, I try to hit those as much as I can. They have, sometimes they'll have lenders come in or different vendors come in and just talk a little bit about their expertise.
Because you guys are at 2, she's 3 years ahead of you and very successful 3 years ahead of you. You're a sponge right now. Like you haven't seen a lot of the things that obviously she has. So you're a sponge right now. So, I mean, do you kind of purge some of that stuff? I mean, you just trying to flatten that learning curve as quickly as possible?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And anytime I have a question or an issue, I call her. She's right there, Johnny, on the spot. Even if she's in the middle of doing something, she's like texting a million miles per hour. I'm like, oh my gosh, how did she text me?
Do you go into the office at Century 2? Do you, because of the kids, you work at home? What's your...
I do work remotely, but we do go into the office periodically. We have floor duty. Sometimes we do. And then our office does have weekly meetings, so I try to make as many of those as possible.
All right. So, Missy, you touched on a thing in the educational piece, and it goes into another theme that is very common, and that is showing up. Because whether it's something being offered by another real estate agent or a loan officer or a title company, there's a little bit of social part of that too, as well as some education. You're covering it. And the reason why I asked you whether or not you're coming into the office, because Missy's not always there, and there are other top agents in that office there. How important is it to interact and show up to these events and mix and mingle with the other agents or other people in the industry and get to know them, to shake hands with them, see them face to face, so because you never know when they're going to be on the other end of that transaction.
Right. Yeah. It is very important. That is probably my biggest downfall in this industry. I don't show up to a lot. I don't do the weekly meetings because my people always come first. I have a schedule. I've tried, to set that schedule. It is important to go to the office, and I know all the agents. I've been there. My broker is very good at understanding. Missy's going to do Missy. If it comes to a deal or comes to following up on leads, I feel that's more important than showing up and socializing. That's just my attitude. Jadiz goes in a lot more than I do. She does floor duty. I do floor duty when someone is sick or something, but not so much. But it is important.
Well, you've had, so, I mean, when you've had success, you got to go after whatever it is that's been your success, right? Whatever it is, and that might be one of my next questions is, consistency is another word that I hear in what you guys are doing consistently. So whatever you were doing has been working for you.
Correct.
Although you have, like you said, recently you guys have decided you need to be a more, get some more face time. So that's kind of, an area that you can pick up on.
Correct.
And showing up more. So it's on your schedule. Because whatever you were doing before to get your leads, before that was getting you the referrals, obviously it was working, and you need to 10x that. So if you need to give up on showing up because that's working, that's where you need to go.
Exactly.
Well, we understand that showing up. So for being a new agent, how important is it to come in the office? And I asked this question specifically because I think it's becoming a weakness in our industry, whether it's the loan officer field. These guys feel they can just sit at home and they don't have any experience. Like you and I, you've done enough transactions. I've been doing this 17 years. I can sit at home and I can have conversations with people because I've heard thousands of thousands. I've had thousands and thousands of conversations with people talking about loans. But as a new person, to hear the other agents or hear a different perspective other than Missy's and being in the office?
I think it's very beneficial. We have agents in our office that have been doing it for 15, 20 years. So it's always helpful to hear their perspective. And when you think you've seen it all, you've never seen it all.
No.
So it's beneficial to me, especially when you have agents that are willing to share. You have a lot of people that are gatekeepers.
Yeah.
But when you have those agents in your office that are willing to share from their mistakes or their experiences, I think you can greatly benefit from showing up to those events and those functions that your office has.
And I will, just as I've mentioned on podcasts before, but I'm going to mention this slightly differently. you don't know at that moment in time when that knowledge will become important. Right? You hear the story, someone else in the office was telling, a war story about a transaction, and you're like, okay, whatever, I've never had that happen to me. And sure enough, Murphy's Law, before you know it, it's in front of you. Right. And now you're going, hey, I heard, Steve in the office was talking about whatever, and then you call Steve and say, Steve, I've got a similar situation. How did you handle that? Because I heard you talking about it in the office 3 months ago. And how you handled that situation. And it's priceless. I just can't, whether you're new loan officer, new agent, new at anything, you got to get in the office. Don't hide at home. You're not growing there. You have to get in the office. At some point, you can spend some more time at home. But initially, I think you need to show up. So that's common sense. Surrounding yourself by successful people. I don't think we've actually, besides obviously Jadiz surrounding yourself with Missy, but what are there's other people in the industry, Jadiz, that you've reached out to? Have you connected maybe with other top agents in the office and built a relationship and someone that you can rely on should Missy not be available?
Yes. So our broker, Gina, she, initially it was under Bobby. So she was our managing broker when I first came on. She's been very helpful. She's very beneficial, very resourceful. I don't think there's a question that I've asked her that she has not given me an answer for. So if Missy isn't available, I reach out to Gina. Also Dean, he's also our broker. Gina and Dean, they're married. So
now, have you gotten hooked on Tom Ferry? Like she follows Tom Ferry, or are you following anyone right now?
I have not gotten hooked on Tom Ferry. I definitely am open to finding those top agents to follow and getting some good training from them. But currently, I have not.
One of the things here's my tip to you, if I could share that. This is I've been doing this 17 years, so I've been around different people. But a year ago, I started following a group like a Tom Ferry, but in the loan officer world, and in coaching. And what it did for me is it did the same thing. Sarah Rocco will tell you that a similar story. And she was very early. She was actually 2 months into her career where she met with somebody, and it gives you a greater perspective, a greater vision to start kind of listening or reaching out of the Fernandina area or the Jacksonville area, whatever you want, and hearing some of these other guys talk. There are a lot of podcasts. Obviously, that's an easy way. We're on a podcast, talk about podcasts, or if you like watching YouTube, to go on and actually listen. And I think, Missy, if you going to the different events, it gives you a greater vision of real estate as a whole.
Correct.
Yeah. And I'm sure that Tom Ferry, immediately your brain started like growing faster when you started interacting with them and listening to him and obviously coaching, like, oh my God, this business is so much more than what I'm seeing in front of you. It's like a breath of fresh air. You see like, wow, I didn't realize. I'm going to tell you right now, if you listen to every one of my podcasts, every one of the agents does their business a little bit differently. And that's just
I did stalk you. I listened to all of them.
Yes. Is that why my numbers shot up?
Yeah.
But yeah, if you listen to everyone on there, they do their business a little bit differently. As you guys know, Melissa Ricks is right in your downtown. She does business different than anybody, the way she does, way she structures her team and so forth. So, all right. So we covered that. All right, Missy, I'm going to ask. Jadiz hasn't been doing this long enough to answer this question. In your 3 years, what is your biggest mistake? What would you tell Jadiz not to do? Because you've done it.
That's a tough one.
Yep.
Because
there's got to be something you did, and you're like, yeah, that doesn't work. Jadiz, don't bother doing that.
Honestly, again, for me, it was the cold calling. The cold calling doesn't work for me. It just doesn't. I just don't have success with it. However, Jadiz does. She's very, very good at it. That is the one thing. Again, I don't know if it's a zip code or what it is. I have had no luck cold calling. We've got an event tomorrow night that our broker is sponsoring where we're all going to go to the office and do some type of cold call thing. kind of curious to see how that's going to go for myself.
You're getting out of your comfort zone.
I have to get out of my comfort zone to just kind of see what Jadiz does, because we've never done it together. What does Jadiz do differently that I don't to make myself better? And that's what it's all about. Is Jadiz makes me better, I make her better. That's what a team is.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, because one of the things I has developed over interviewing all these people is starting to pick this part out of it. And some agents are creating their entire brokerage around really nailing down what everyone's special thing is, whether it's cold calling, whether it's knocking on doors, whatever it may be. If they're great at TikTok and it gets some leads, to 10x it, right? To go all out on that part. And it's not shocking that, not to, I know you personally, I say, oh yeah, you can't do cold calling, but she can. But it could, how you sound on the phone, your confidence in what you're doing. We don't know what it is. She's clicking. It's something they're hearing, and they're like, Jace, yeah, great. Oh yeah, Missy, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that.
But 10x it, right? That's what she's good at. I was listening to John Brooks with Momentum Realty. He does this full assessment on his agents to find out what is it they like doing, what do they enjoy doing, and obviously what produces, right? So he puts that all together, and he was telling me a story of an agent he had in Ocala. They took the assessment, and she was really good at the online leads, taking that phone call. She was good on the phone, boom, and when they just 10x that, her business just blew up. Because she was trying to do everything, but all these other things she wasn't really good at, she just focused on the things she was very good at, went through the roof.
I think that's an amazing idea. Sort of like a personality test.
Yeah.
For each agent.
I can't think. Clifton Assessment. That's what it's called. I think there's a couple others, but it really digs down. There's like 35, 36, different things. You want to focus on your top 5, and it actually breaks down the top 5 that are you. There and what you should focus on. I'm very much a visionary person. I'm not a detailed person, right? Those are some of the things, but it breaks it down and tells you this is what you like doing, this is what you don't like doing, and you're like, yeah, that's me. And then you got to really dig into it to find out what is the prospecting part of that fits you. And if it is cold calling, 10x it. Just spend the day, cold calling. If that you enjoy doing it, you're good at it, and it produces, just stay with it. Don't worry about the other trinkets that everyone throws at you.
Exactly.
All right. I'm going to ask both of you. So, since she's experienced, or has 3 years experience to 2 months experience, I'm going to ask her this question first, but that'll give you time to prepare.
Okay.
All right. So you're someone's watching this YouTube video. Possible buyer, let's say they're from Wisconsin, and they're looking at you versus maybe another agent. They're wanting to move into the Nassau County area. Why should they call Missy?
Because we do it better. No, seriously.
All right, you got to expand on that.
No, seriously.
Sell that.
We
They're
do.
watching the video. Tell me.
Seriously,
tell
we do.
Mrs. Jones over there from Wisconsin why you should be.
So one thing that I do strive, and we actually have it on our business card, chosen for professionalism, famous for results.
Oh, hold on. Make sure chosen for professionalism.
Famous for results.
Famous for results.
Because it doesn't matter if you're $75,000.
That's gonna be the title. That's gonna be the title of this podcast when I put it out there. Chosen for professionalism, famous for results. Right?
Yes, okay. That is correct.
All right. Go ahead.
It doesn't matter if you're $75,000 buyer or $2.2 million buyer. You're going to get my same exact attention above and beyond. You're going to get the emails at 6 o'clock in the morning. You're going to get the emails at 6:30 at night. I'm always going to text back. I will return your phone call in 24 hours. I got 3 leads last month from 2 buyers, both under 100K. Doesn't matter to me. They reached out to 4 agents and no one called them back. And they said, I hope you can produce. And we've been seeing property since. All 3 of them are investors. So that tells you something.
Yes.
It tells you a lot, because some agents, I think, get to a point, they won't touch you if you're under 100. They won't even touch you if you're under 300. To me, it's not, again, the money doesn't drive me. Helping people, meeting friends, going to weddings, and doing all the social events with them, that's what drives me.
It just goes back to your $100,000 buyer, statement. I mean, it blows my mind. They didn't dig deep enough to find out that is a $100,000 investor, and he probably wants to buy 4 or 5 properties, and probably end up spending $150,000 to $200,000, whatever. He might buy a property from you for each of the next 4 years, and then turn around and sell those properties.
Correct.
He may fix it up, rent it for a couple of years, and then he feels the equity's there. He sells it and buys another. He could be a lifetime customer that might do 10, 20 deals with you.
Correct.
I mean, and a lot of people would love to do 10, 20 deals a year. And now you just planted this one customer in your career. It's just taking up 1 year of sales. You're not going to get them all at once, but because you answered the phone.
Correct.
Yep. 100%. All right. This is your sales pitch, Jadiz here. Why should someone call Jadiz if they're looking to buy anywhere, really? What is it that the service you're going to deliver?
Well, I hate to piggyback, but I'm going to piggyback.
Well, she's your mentor. Why not?
But just treating everyone the same. No, like she said, no matter if it's the $100,000 buyer or if it's the $6.4 million buyer, everyone gets the same service. Everyone gets treated with the same level of humanity and the relationship. I'm a pretty awesome friend, and I'm really fun. So I feel like that's a plus, just building that relationship, going above and beyond, and just keeping that relationship growing throughout the years. And a lot of people will say, oh, I'm only available from 9 to 5. Being available, I understand everybody has a life. I have 2 children. I have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, but it takes 5 seconds to send a text message back at 6:30 or send a text message back at 8 o'clock in the morning.
100%.
It doesn't take that much time. And I get you do have to have boundaries and you do have to have, time for personal, but in reason, just being available, being present, showing up, taking that extra mile, I think is always key.
Now, both of you said this, and I know you're going to agree with me, but I want to clarify. Yes, your $6 million buyer versus your $100,000 buyer have different needs. How you interact, all of us want to be responded to. Whether you're a $100,000 buyer or the $6 million buyer, when they call, they expect you to, respond in one way, shape, or form. Hopefully answer the phone. That's the ideal thing, or at least message them, say, hey, give me 5 minutes, I'll call you back. I mean, one thing when I was at Quicken Loans, they said, a lot of times when someone calls in, don't answer the phone right away. Let it go to voicemail because you want to let them know that you're busy. And hopefully that creates a sense of urgency to understand they want to do business with busy people. They don't want to do business with someone who's not busy. So the fact that you may have to text message now, hey, let me call you back, or I'm showing a house to a customer, I'll call you back, in an hour, or whatever that is. You responded. They have an idea when you're going to call back. Everybody wants that, 100,000 to 6 million, but that you guys do have the ability, because Nassau County has the $1 million homes, 2, 3, 4. I don't know, is there $6 million homes?
Yeah, 6 and 10.
There's probably a handful of them, yeah. And then they do have, you go west, you do have the $100,000 manufactured home buyer. I mean, you have that full scale there, but you guys cater your business to that customer, understanding everyone has different, as every buyer is different, their finances, what they want out of a home. Every transaction is different. You guys have the ability to be nimble. That's the word I want to use.
There you go.
Have the ability to be nimble and handle the difference in all those. And hopefully, and as every $100,000 buyer dreams of one day buying that $1.2 million home, you want to be that realtor for them then as well.
Correct.
Yes. All right, guys, we're going to wind this down. I call these my 2-minute warning questions. Missy, what is your favorite thing to do in Northeast Florida when you're not selling real estate?
Sit on the beach.
Sit on the beach.
Sit on the beach.
Is there a favorite beach you have?
I go to Amelia Island.
You go to Amelia Island? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Jadiz, what do you like to do? What do you and the kids like to do? Disney World's not an answer.
Oh.
Northeast Florida. We're selling lifestyle here.
You're right.
What is
Central.
the lifestyle? Yeah. What do you do?
Well, my kids, they love the zoo. We also love all petting zoos, anything animal related. Well, my 2-year-old does. My 5-year-old, she hates it, but we just drag her along still.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a dance mom, so I take my kids to dance.
Oh, okay.
We do that. My husband's a football coach at Fernandina Beach High School. Go
Oh,
Pirates.
okay.
So that's pretty much what we do in our downtime, and we love the beach, the pool.
I officiate. I had been doing college for most of the last 10 years, but now I just work Friday nights at doing the high school football officiating. So when I get Fernandina on the schedule, I'll let you know so I can meet your husband on the sideline sometime there if they fall on my schedule. Yeah, for sure. All right, here's the deep question now. The last question that everyone on every episode, almost everyone, I think a couple I forgot to ask this. Is it more important who you know or what you know, Missy?
I was taught early on, it's not what you know, it's who you know. I worked for a prominent attorney in Portsmouth, and he taught me that at a very young age. It is not what you know, it is who you know.
What was his angle on that? I mean,
honestly, because we were such a small town in Portsmouth, kind of like Amelia Island, knowing the people that he introduced me to and meeting them, you do have a lot of power with the people you know in higher up that they are, whether it be police, whether it be judges. They know your name, they know you. It just helps you in society in general.
And when you had a question or some whatever dilemma that you may have had, to be able to pick up the phone, or if run into them at the grocery store or whatever it is, and they know you, that they're willing to give a little bit more advice or
they are, and it goes a long way.
Right. Jadiz? Who you know or what you know and why?
I think a little bit of both. Because, who you know is definitely important. It'll get you in the door. But once you're in the door, if you don't know anything, you kind of put your foot in your mouth and then really kind of expose yourself if you don't know anything. So
well, you could fail forward. There's no doubt about that. And you don't want to. You would not want someone who you know to recommend you to do something you're really not good at, and then obviously their reputation goes down. So I could see your rationale there. I'm a who you know. I don't, because I assume there's some competence level, but like you said, to be able to pick up the phone, a top agent and so forth, and say, hey, you know what, I'm trying to price out this home. I've never done one in this neighborhood. I've seen you sold 3 in the last year in here. What are some of the, what is this, that, the questions you guys ask to, if you're getting that listing appointment or something. But 100%. Ladies, I appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you're Fernandina and you are looking for top agents with great service, these two ladies here, I assume you guys do team up on some transactions where, hey, you're going to take vacation and all of a sudden your buyer calls and says, I want to see houses. Jadiz is there to pick up the slack and vice versa. So 100%. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.